Jasude, everyone. Very warm welcome to the second day of Deep Dive Spirituality, conducted by North America Institute of Vihangam Yoga. We are all blessed with the wisdom from Sarved and the real experience of Sadhguru Siddhafal Devji Maharaj. It is all his blessings that we all are here and are able to speak on some topic which is very close to each one of us. This is our session 2 of Deep Dive Spirituality. We'll do a brief recap of what we covered in the first session before we dive deep into the fall of a soul from liberation to the bondages. We began with understanding who is a true seeker, and we understood that the seeker is the one who first accepts that I do not know, because that is the biggest problem in this world. Even people have half-baked knowledge downloaded from internet with no experience. They would start arguing back on the basis of that false knowledge. So the true seeker is the one who first accepts this, I do not know. And Sadhudev then says that there's stuff to know. Do you really know this? Do you really desire to know these? If yes, then you are a seeker. So not only you recognize what you are seeking, but you also go forward to find the answer for that. Sadhudev asked this question that कर विचार मैं कौन हूं ब्रह्म को जगद आधार. Do you think about who you are? Who is the Almighty Lord, who is the base of this creation? कैसे जग उत्पन्न है? How did the creation happen? लीन कौन विधि पार? And once I'm caught into this vastness of the creation, how would I cross this ocean and go beyond? कौन सत्य कर्तव्य है? What is the primus duty in the human life? दुख सुख कैसे होय? How does the sorrow and the happiness, the cycle of sorrow and happiness is happening? Baddha mukti kehi bhati so. How does a soul fall into bondage? And how would it liberate? This is what we all must seek from the spirituality. And then we spoke about the six eternal entities, out of which we understood that it is the fundamental ingredient of the creation called the Prakriti is what is eternal and the only inert entity, Prakriti. And there are four entities which are conscious. The Supreme Lord, which is omnipresent, the base of everything, the Akshar Brahm, who is in the one quadrant of the Almighty and is the reason for the creation to happen. It is with his vibration that the creation begins. And it is only when he stops his vibration, the creation collapses to the pralaya, back to the cosmic egg. There is one entity called Sadguru, whose consciousness, as you see, is flowing everywhere. So Sadguru is this indicated here by this flow of energy, which is flowing everywhere. It is there in the zone of creation. It is there in the zone of these three-path bliss, the bliss zone of Almighty. So these four entities are conscious entity: Akshar Brahm, Supreme Soul, the individual soul, and Sadguru. Creation is inert, and Kal is neither inert nor conscious. These are the six eternal entities. Then we understood what is inert, what is Jad. As we understand, jad is something which is like dead. I mean, it doesn't have aliveness, no consciousness. So anything which is made of prakriti, meaning any creation of this universe, is inert by itself, because the fundamental ingredient of it is the prakriti, which is inert. It will consist of trigunas, the sat, raj, and tam. And by this we understand that the creation by itself is not eternal. The vastness of this universe that we see is not eternal. What is eternal is the fundamental ingredient of the creation, which is prakriti. So prakriti is eternal, but creation by itself is not. Srishti is not eternal. What is consciousness? We understood that consciousness is a special form of light. It is felt by its three attributes. If you find iksha, gyan, and prayatna, meaning the desire, the power of actions, and the knowledge. When you find these attributes present in one entity, that means that entity certainly is a conscious entity. And when you find these three qualities or one of these qualities missing, in fact, all three qualities will be missing. When you find these qualities missing, it is not engraved or inherent in that element, then that means that is the inert entity. These three attributes is the differentiator between the inertness and consciousness. So consciousness is what reflects as aliveness. When you find anything alive, for example, you and me, right now we find our body alive, that means there is consciousness running in the body. So body seems alive, but the body by itself is an inert entity. It is the consciousness of the soul that is bringing aliveness in our body. Right now, we are in the state of ignorance. We are in the state of bondage. And we understood that our conscious soul right now is caught into the body and it is being overpowered by the mind. The soul has lost the grip of its own consciousness. Soul does not know, how can I attain the experiences of other consciousness, which can only be experienced by the free use of the consciousness of the spirit. Right now, we are not able to freely use our own consciousness because we have lost the grip of our own consciousness. It is dependent on the mind and the sensory organs for every experience in life. Absolutely every experience in this life, the soul is getting all through these indriyas and the mind. And as long as the soul is dependent on these indriyas, that is what is the state of ignorance. In the state of ignorance, the soul will continue in the cycle of life and death, and it will continue to remain unquenched because the happiness that it finds in the world, in this creation, is nothing but just a drop of the entire bliss ocean. The bliss ocean is in the urdhva pravah, and the drop which is in the world, in the creation, is in the ardha pravah. Ardha pravah meaning the outward flow, the downward flow. Urdhva pravah means the upward flow, the inward flow. So right now we are stuck here, and that too, this drop of the happiness is not staying with us for longer duration, only for a brief time, only for a momentary time, we are able to experience this drop of the bliss. It is very transient, it doesn't stay with us. So eventually, we are left with unquenched, the state of unquenched. We are never, never, never complete in this creation with just one drop. And the reason we are not feeling complete because soul has always desired for the complete ocean, not a drop. Sadgurudev says in Swarved, Seek bund sam jagat sukh, kasha samundar jaan, परमानंद को किमि कहूँ शक्य वचन नहीं ज्ञान. तृण के बूंद के समान संसार का सुख है. Meaning when you just put a, I don't know, the stick, the thin stick in the ocean and take it out, whatever drop will be hanging in that tip of that, thread, the wooden thread, that is what is the happiness in this world. Whereas the soul is desiring for the complete ocean. This is the whole reason. Whatever you do in this life, you will never be happy. You will never be happy. You can only fool yourself that you are happy and satisfied and completely peaceful, but that is not possible without spirituality. We are a conscious entity and we are seeking to experience the blissful Almighty, nothing less. We are not expecting anything less than the Almighty Himself. That's where we are. And the reason we seek that because we were originally in the state of liberation. We were in the state of liberation, in union with Almighty, in that bliss ocean. And then we fell down. So what is our story? How did that misfortune happen? This is what is the subject for today's discussion. So welcome again in the session 2, the fall of a soul from liberation to the bondages. When the soul is in the purest form, when it is in union with Almighty God, when there is no body, no prakriti, no inertness, it's just the Sat, Chit and Anand, the absolute experience of the Almighty and the bliss of Almighty, and just that, not even about any impression about the self. It's just the Almighty. That is the state of Hansa Deha. So in Hansa Deha, the soul experiences only Almighty, nothing else. It does not even have any impression about the self. The reason being, it does not pay attention to the self. Sadgurudev describes that what is this state? He says, soul is in Supreme Lord in the same fashion as is the iron rod in the fire. By this analogy, he makes it very clear that soul is an eternal entity, and many people, speak contrary things. They will say soul is eternal, it does not die, it does not take birth, and then they will talk about that you are nothing but the Almighty Himself. Sadgurudev is very clearly stating here that there is always the existence of the soul. The existence of the soul never ends. It's just that when the iron piece is put into fire, the iron itself acquires the fire's quality and becomes like fire. When it will become like fire, when it is fully heated up and becomes like fire, from outside you will not then be able to recognize where is the iron and where is the fire, because the properties of the fire has been derived by the iron. So iron has become like fire. This is what exactly happens with Sat Chit Atma. The Atma which was only Sat Chit. The soul is only Sat and Chit, and Paramatma is Sat Chit Anand. So when the soul is in union with Supreme Lord, it acquires the property of Anand within itself, and the soul also becomes Satchidanand. So what is the equality now between the soul and Supreme Soul? The equality is only in the quality of Sat Chit Anand. Not in the soul will not become as efficient as Almighty in this state. The soul is still not the Sakshi and the doer of everything. Soul is not. This is the confusion that people carry all because of the bookish knowledge. Soul does not become God, but soul only acquires the godly form, in the sense it was Sat and Chit, and in union with Almighty, it also becomes Sat Chit Anand. So the property which was missing in it, it acquires that property and become integral part of the Almighty Lord. That state is the purest state of the soul, called Hansa Deha. Sadgurudev says, Shodas Surya Prakash hai Sachidananda Swarup. Atam alag adhar mein tanmay purush anup. Tanmay means it's completely lost, dissolved into the bliss of Almighty. It is tanmay, it is completely engrossed into it. Into what? Into Almighty's bliss. And that purest state of the soul is brightened with the light of 16th sun. We carry that much of light. Even now also, the soul never loses its light. The light is the inherent quality of the soul. It's just that we are not able to see our own light. That is the state of ignorance. Imagine just one sun is enough to brighten the entire solar system. And we, the tiny atomic entity, the soul, is filled with the light of 16 sun. That much bright we are. Sodas Surya Prakash hai. Sachidananda Swarup. In this state, we become like the Almighty. Just a tiny piece, but the property becomes same, not the ability. The ability of the soul is not same as the Almighty's ability. The capabilities are still very tiny compared to what Almighty can do. The soul can still not make the creation, but Almighty can. Once you reach to the liberation, it doesn't mean that you will become the creator. That will not happen. The creator is still the Almighty only. The soul is always a soul. Right now, in the state of liberation, it's only Almighty in the experience. But when the soul pulls the consciousness and look at the self, when only self is in the consciousness, when it is only trying to experience what have I become, it's very blissful. It is something like when the iron piece is pulled out of the fire and it will start looking at its own quality. Oh, what have I become? What am I? Oh, I am the fire. If this iron piece will tell that I am the fire, you can understand very clearly that this is just the state of illusion. It is not its own quality, but it is just the acquired quality. And exactly this is what happens with the soul. Soul thinks aham brahmasmi because it finds bliss in it within itself, and it finds the 16 sun bright light. It thinks that I am brahmasmi, I have the bliss of my own. Sadhgurudev write this state, the Kaivalya Deha state says ब्रह्मास्मि भ्रम उदय में अहम भाव बन आए केवल देह सो जानिए पतन मूल भ्रम पाए. This is what is the root cause of the fall. This very state of ignorance, this very first bondage of ignorance about the self, this is what is the cause of the fall of a soul. सदगुरुदेव सेज जब मुक्ति में जीव को मैं ब्रह्म हूं यह भ्रम अभिमान उदय हो जाता है तब जीव अपने स्वरूप में ही आनंद समझने लगता है. इसी को कैवल्य देह कहते हैं. यही भूल भ्रम अहम ब्रह्मास्मि जीव के पतन का कारण है. So when in liberation the individual soul starts understanding self as the Almighty Himself, this illusion and this the self-ignorance is what causes the fall of a soul. Sadhgurudev says this state of ignorance, this state of illusion that the soul has acquired in its Sachidanand Swarup, it is still in Sachidanand Swarup. It is still carrying the bliss property. It is something like the heat of the iron has not yet gone. It is still persisting with the iron. Same is the state in Kaivalya Deha. It is still carrying the bliss of the Almighty, but it thinks that that is it. He is the Almighty. He is the Satchidananda Swarup. This is what is the cause of the fall. So still Sat Chit Anand Swarup, but now the consciousness is centered to the self. Earlier, the entire consciousness was centered to the Almighty. So the only experience that the soul had was of Almighty, not even about the self. But now the only experience that the soul has is of the self, not even of the Almighty. When it is self-centered and misconcludes that oh aham brahmasmi, this is what is the cause of the fall. Now it has got a defect in its knowledge, and once a defect has risen in the knowledge, this has to be corrected. Another problem is the moment it loses the touch of the Almighty, the bliss starts going away. And then what happens? Now it starts getting restless. Its consciousness is now restless. It cannot experience Almighty anymore because it has detached from the Almighty. The devotion has already gone down. The devotion at which Sadhguru had left the soul with, when he took the soul to the Almighty, that level of devotion is already lost. And unfortunately, the Almighty is so subtle that there is no compromise. Even if there is a little, the fractional, slight degradation in our devotion, in our consciousness, in our wisdom, then the Almighty will disappear. for you, because then your refined level of consciousness does not match to the refinement at which Almighty's consciousness exists. So the moment there is a little bit of degradation, the experience of God is gone. But what you still experience is the creation, the zone of creation. Why? Because zone of creation is still gross compared to the level of consciousness you carry at that point. So this is the state of Mahakaran. So in the state of Mahakaran, you are restless. The consciousness is restless and it is trying to find the bliss. It sees the creation. It sees the creation, and so its consciousness is pulled into creation. The consciousness is pulled into creation. The desires for experiencing creation is intensifying. It is building up the desire now to experience the creation, because that's all it can experience. It even doesn't experience the self. The difference between the Kaivalya Deha and the Mahakaran Deha is that in Kaivalya Deha, the consciousness is self-centered. So it experiences the self. In Mahakaran Deha, the consciousness is centered at the creation. So neither it experienced the Almighty, nor it experienced the self. Now it is fully engrossed into the creation. So Sadgurudev says, अपने स्वरूप में स्थित न रह. So you're not even staying at your own self. अपने स्वरूप में स्थित न रह. अपना ज्ञान जब प्राकृतिक भोगों की प्राप्ति के लिए नीचे चला जाता है, then your consciousness is pulled into the creation. और भोग संकल्प दृढ़ हो जाने से ज्ञान में ह्रास हो जाता है. Not only consciousness is pulled into creation, but the desires for experiencing the creation intensifies. When the desires intensify, that is what is the fall of your consciousness, the further fall of your consciousness. And this is the state of Mahakaran Deha. So Mahakaran Deha is a further fall, a fallen state of consciousness than the Kaivalya Deha. But still, you have not acquired any layers of the inertness. You're still in Sat Chit form. You're still in the conscious form. So Sadgurudev says, Ardha Jnana Sankalpa Dridha, Drishya Bhog Jada Hoy, Patan Mahakaran Bana Bhay Hans Satchit Soy. So only when you develop the deep desire to experience the creation, that is when you attain the state of Mahakaran Deha. So Kaivalya, Mahakaran, दोनों अवस्थाएं आत्मा में होती है, केवल चेतन सत्ता की भ्रमयुक्त दोनों अवस्थाएं हैं. So both these states, the Kaivalya state as well as the Mahakaran state, is just the different levels of ignorance within the pure conscious soul. The soul is still pure conscious. It has not acquired any layers of the inert body. And after this, it gets pulled into the zone of creation, because it was so much engrossed into creation and it was so much attracted into creation that it fell into the zone of creation. Now it has left that tri-quadrant, the bliss quadrant of the Almighty. Now it has entered into the zone of Prakriti. The moment it enters into zone of Prakriti, the first layer is already formed. The Prakriti has already formed around the soul. The Prakriti, which is a fundamental ingredient of the creation, the Prakriti is the fundamental atoms of the creation. That fundamental atoms has already you can say, covered the soul from all around. So this combined state of the soul and the prakriti is what is called the karandeha. So soul enters into the zone of prakriti, and the second bondage, I would say, the bondage of Jada Chetan Granthi is what is formed around the soul. The first bondage that it got was the bondage of ignorance, which happened at the state of Kaivalya Deha. Kaivalya Deha is where the first bondage, the bondage of ignorance, gripped in. And then in Karan Deha, the second bondage, which is the bondage called Jada Chetan Granthi, the Chetan Atma is now caught into Jada Prakriti. Jada Chetan Granthi is what is the second bondage, which has gripped the soul. This is the state of Karan Deha. Sadgudev says, Jada Chetan Sanyoga में Maya Jiva Sambandh यौगिक कारण देह है जड़ फंदा जीव बंध. माया और जीव का संबंध जड़ चेतन का संयोग है. The pure Jeev, the pure soul is now in the grip of Maya. What an unfortunate incidence. The Chetan Atma is now caught into Jad Prakriti. This is what is called Karan Deha. The Prakriti is inert, but the conscious Atma, the soul, is a conscious entity. इन्हीं के संबंध से जीव प्रकृति के बंधन में पड़कर आवागमन संसार दुख को प्राप्त होता है. And now it has enrolled into the sorrowful cycle of life and death. It has self-enrolled into it. God did not enroll soul for this trip of life and death. No, the soul has enrolled itself into the sorrowful cycle of life and death. इसी ग्रंथि को छूट जाने पर जीव अपने शुद्ध स्वरूप में आकर परमानंद प्राप्ति का प्रयत्न करता है. चेतन शुद्ध स्वरूप प्राप्त होने पर प्रभु की भक्ति और परमानंद की प्राप्ति होती है. And Sadgudev is writing that, unless this grip of Maya is what you have to get rid of, unless you get rid of the grip of the Maya, you do not even become eligible for the higher journey of God realization. Just getting rid of Maya, just getting rid of the clutch of the Maya is not enough. Because the soul consciousness by itself is not in that subtle degree that the Almighty will be visible. That's why Sadgudev has written here that whatever the grip the soul has acquired, called Jada Chetan Granthi, after breaking this, the journey of God realization will begin. So after self-realization, after coming back to the original Sat Chit conscious form, the journey of God realization will begin. So self-realization is the beginning of the God realization. It is not the end of the God realization. And this is where many other sects of yoga and philosophy has come into picture. Why? The experience that a soul gets upon realizing the self, they find 16 sunlight and it's very peaceful, very divine. And they close their chapter of journey right then and there. They say that I got the God. This is what God is. That is the end of their journey. And Sadgudev is saying here that is what is the beginning of the journey. It is not the end of the journey. In this journey of downfall, we have reached to the state of Karan Deha. Karan Deha is when the soul is caught in the grip of the Jad Maya. The next one is the subtle body. Now, this soul, which is in the grip of inert Prakriti, now has started acquiring the 19 elements. It has started acquiring 19 elements. How are those 19 elements formed? They are formed by the power of Akshar Brahm. The Akshar Brahm, who is the reason for the creation. It is by the Akshar Brahm that the universe is expanding. It is because of the Akshar Brahm that five fundamental elements, the Akash, the Akash, Vayu, Agni, Jal, Prithvi, these all five fundamental elements are combining with each other and creation is happening. Who is providing the vibration and the energy for this creation to happen? It is Akshar Brahm. That is why Akshar Brahm is called Chalavanhar. Chalavanhar. He is the one who is driving this creation. He is providing the energy to the creation. So with Akshar Brahm energies, all these 19 elements then come along and surround the soul to form the subtle body. Out of these 19 elements, 5 are the sensory organs, 5 are organs of actions, there are 5 pranas, and there are 4 inner organs. All these are made of the 5 Panchabhuta, the 5 basic elements, but not the mind. Mind is not made of those 5 basic elements. Mind just spawns out of the Akshar Brahm himself. अक्षर मन का योनि है, अक्षर से मन होय, पंचभूत से मन नहीं, यह तत्व समझे कोई. Mind is not, the man is not made of 5 elements. Man or mind originates from the Akshar Brahm himself, whereas all other inner organs and these subtle organs are formed out of the Panchabhuta. And what are Panchabhuta made of? The Akash, Vayu, Agni, Jal, Prithvi, these are the Panchabhuta. But what are these Panchabhuta made of? These are made of, again, the fundamental element called the Prakriti, the Sat, Raj, Tam. Different ratios of the Sat, Raj, Tam combine together to form one or the other elements. For example, Akash. Akash is made of Satogun. It is the Satogun of the Prakriti which forms the Akash. Similarly, the other ratios of the Satogun, Rajogun, Tamogun is what forms these different elements. And Satogun, Rajogun and Tamogun are the fundamental property of the Prakriti, the prime atomic ingredient of the creation. But mind is not made of that. This is what we need to understand. So at this point, when it is in the zone of Akshar Brahm, when it is in the zone of creation, or in the zone of Akshar Brahm, it's all the same, because the zone of Akshar Brahm is where the zone of creation is. So when it is in the zone of creation, the Akshar Brahm gives the mind and he uses the fundamental ingredients to form these bodies around it. And the subtle body is what the soul acquires at this state. So this is the state of Sukshma Deha, the subtle body, which is composed of 19 elements. पंच प्राण 10 इंद्रियां अंतःकरण मिलाए, यह तो सूक्ष्म देह है 19 तत्व समाए. 5 प्राण 10 इंद्रियां और 4 अंतःकरण, इन 19 तत्वों की सूक्ष्म देह होती है. So now we are in the subtle body, but yet not in the mother's womb. We are still in the space, floating in the space. And then from there we fall into the earth, in the soil, we go into grains, and the father eats us, and with father's sperm we enter into the mother's womb. So Sadgudev says, उत्पन्न रज वीर्य से अन्न जल वायु पाल षट विकार स्थूल मर जरा युवा तन वाल. Sadgudev says that once we enter into the mother's womb, then in 10 months the gross body is formed. The gross body is formed with the Anna, the Jal, the Vayu. And after that, it goes through the 6 states of the body. The body that, the gross body that we have acquired, our body, this gross body, is destined to go through the 6 states. The first state is the birth itself. The second state is, you know, the the kid, the the infant infant kid, the state of infancy. And then you get into the teenage, then you become adult, then you get aged, old, and then this body attains the final state of death, after which the body dissolves back into the 5 fundamental elements. Body doesn't exist. Body just does not exist after that. What exists is the subtle body. Where do you go? You go back in the space again. You just start floating in the sky again, in the subtle body. And this is how, based on what you have performed, you just settle between, you keep coming in the gross body, then back to the subtle body, then gross body, then subtle body, then gross body, then subtle body. The life and death, the life and death, life and death continues. So these were the 6 states of the soul, the 6 bodies of the soul. I open up the forum for any questions and discussions.
Question. I have a question. I'm gonna mention it.
Namaskaram,
Yes.
Vijay.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah. Anybody else has any question?
Namaskar, Vijay ji. This is Anil.
Yes, Anilji, yes.
It's very fortunate that today is a Mother's Day and we're talking about this topic of creation. So, um, is a mother is part of this whole
Hello?
creation process?
Hello?
Yes, mother is the part of this whole creation process. That's correct, because the gross body is being formed in mother's womb. So, mother's body, the system of the mother's body is what is created such that it will form the gross body. Yeah, Anilji, so I think you couldn't complete your part. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. No, that's what like I just want to making sure that where is the mother part in the whole creation process. So like everybody believes this, the God is like there is so many elements here, right? As part
Right,
of the creation process.
right, right. So in this Sadgudev has mentioned that रज वीर्य से उत्पन्न माता के गर्भ में 10 मास निर्मित देह. So it is the Akshar Brahm who is forming the body, the gross body, but What is the place? Where is he forming the gross body of the soul? He is forming the gross body in the mother's womb, माता के गर्भ में, and he's supplying all the nourishment through the mother. Through the mother, the process is set for all the nourishment to reach to the soul for the gross body to be formed in the mother's womb. So yes, it's a Mother's Day, uh, and so it's a great coincidence. We are talking about the birth of a child. So lovely.
So it's a related question is like again like when you're talking about detachments and talking about materialistic life and all, but if this process of birth is part of the whole Akshara Brahm and the mother and
Mm,
marriage, and then
mm.
when it becomes marriage and child, automatically this relationships and this materialistic life will be formed along with that process, right?
First
Then
of
again,
all,
we are trying to separate it, and again you want to unite it. So come out, open up, then again unite with the Almighty. Is this like a cycle of process which we are trying to go through
no,
into?
no. So the essence of this entire wisdom that we went through is that this is not something which we are born to.
Sure.
It is not that every soul is entitled to come to the universe, experience the world, and then go back. It doesn't happen that way. The God has never wished for soul to fall into this creation, but only when the soul has lost the degree of devotion which is needed for it to stay in the state of Hansadeha. Only when the soul has lost its purity, the level of the refined level of consciousness which is needed for it to stay with Almighty, when it lost that degree of consciousness, then it has to be reinstated. How would it regain the same level of devotion? It has to be trained, it has to be groomed by the Sadguru. And Sadguru, that's why, comes down to the earth, and in the human life, in the human birth only, he is able to groom the soul back to the same level of consciousness. That is the system. That is the system. That is why a human being is a fortunate being, because all the souls who are, let's say, in other bodies, you must allow the souls from the other bodies to come to the human body. So our duty is to allow that to happen. And that is why the system of marriage, the system of birth, all this is in place, where the soul who is now ready for liberation must come in the human body first. The soul who has got the deep understanding now that, this world is not my own, this creation is not where I belong, I don't desire any of these. I was with Almighty in liberation, and that is where I want to go. When this deep understanding is very inherent now within the soul, then it must come in the human body first. If this understanding is there, but unfortunately the human body is gone and now it's in some other body, then it will never get a chance to go back. And that is why there is a system that in the human body we have got a ring, that if you are born as a human, if you were given a chance for you to liberate, then you must create the chance for other soul to liberate. This is why it's called Pitri Rin, and then we try to give birth to a child for getting rid of that debt that we have. So all I'm trying to say is, please don't take it that the soul has a definite duration, and after that duration, it is entitled to fall down to the earth to do some duty. No, it's not like that. There's nothing like
No,
that. Yeah.
yeah, but the question is, so so if the soul is um, taking the rebirth, like then who decides that it has to be a human body versus any other creature?
Right. So this is very good questions, and this is what will lead us to the session of tri bondages. So there are something called bondage of agyanta, bondage of jad chetan granthi, and bondage of karma. कर्मण की अज्ञान की जड़ चेतन की ग्रंथि बंधन में सब जीव है तीन प्रकार की ग्रंथि. All the soul who are in the ignorance in who are in the ignorant state, they are caught into three types of bondages: the bondage of ignorance, the bondage of inertness, and the bondage of karma. So once it comes into the gross body, from the gross body it started performing karma, and all the karmas that it performs are entitled for the fruits. What kind of fruits? The worldly fruits. That means you will have to remain in this world to go through those fruits for which you have performed the actions. So your actions become the reason for you to stay back in this world in the cycle of life and death. You are constantly performing actions at a speed which is unimaginable. The speed of karma is more than the speed of life. Your life is very slow compared to the speed of karma that you're performing. Why? Because our Guru says that चेष्टा आत्म की चले बहती प्रकृति आधार कायिक वाचिक मानसिक कर्म है तीन प्रकार. Whatever effort you are making right now, whether at the level of the body, at the level of mind, or at the level of speech, every moment, the soul is always actional. It is always active. Every moment, the soul is active because that's its nature. It is the nature of the soul. The power of action you cannot separate from the soul. So soul is always active from inside. And what you do with the intuition of those actions is that you're making use of the mind and indriyas for doing the actions. So all the actions that you perform, whether by your speech organ or by your other part of the body or by your mind, everything is your karma. So you can imagine that, are you ever, is there even a single moment when you're not doing karma? You're always doing karma. Either you're thinking about something in the mind, or you're doing something with your body, or you're speaking. Even when you're sleeping, even in the state of sleep, when you're dreaming, you're thinking about something, you're forming some kind of stories within your mind. It's all karma. You're still doing karma there. Even in dream, if you show some bad character to others, meaning in dream you are killing somebody, in dream you are abusing somebody, do you think you are not tied to those karma? Please don't mistake that. Even in dream, you are performing actions. The only reason you got a dream of abusing somebody because that's your character. That has become our character. Either the character from this life or the character from previous life. But that is ingrained in our chitta. And influenced by that character, in the dream, you're performing that ill actions. So this is how the sea of action, the sea of karma is what, or the mud of karma, not the sea of karma. It should be called mud of karma. This is how the mud of karma is all enhancing around us, and there is no way to come out of this mud of karma. And that's why Sadgudev says, कर्म ही जीव ले आया, कर्म ही जीव ले जाए, कर्म के बांधा ई जगत कर्म के कीच नहाय. You have taken birth in the human body with the baggage of karma. You will go from this human body with the baggage of karma. You will live in this human body in the mud of karma. So there is no escape now from the bondage of karma. There is absolutely no escape without Sadguru. No escape without Sadguru. So these are
So
the
how
three bondages. Yeah.
so how do you cleanse this mud of karma?
Yeah. So you are you are snatching my next class on the tri bondages. So let's leave it for that. We are going to talk in detail about karma, and that is where we'll discuss about how the cleansing process happens for that. Yeah. Yes.
JV,
Yes.
I have a question in the same discussion, in the same reference. Like
Mhm.
there is a theory, I should say, like I don't know if it is a proper name to call it theory, but they say that the soul chooses before coming to the earth, uh, who their parents will be, or what will be the course of the life that he or she will spend or whatever. So,
Mhm.
what does the Swamiji have to say about it? Or
Okay. So it is indirect way of saying this. This is not 100% correct to say that the soul decides the parent or the life or the span of the life. No, soul does not decide.
Mm,
Ultimately, it is the job of Akshar Brahm to make the body for us and take us or throw us into that body. But the reason it is said so that it is you who decides what would be who will be your parent and all, because the foundation of that decision, the basis on which Akshar Brahm decides which body you will be thrown into next life, is our own karma, our own doing.
mm,
Whatever karma we do, that is getting stored in our inner organ called chitta. The chitta is part of our subtle body, it is not part of our gross body. That means even one body perishes, the chitta doesn't perish. Chitta
mm,
does not perish. Chitta still goes along. So chitta is capturing all your karmas, which is happening at the rapid pace, faster than your this life. Meaning whatever karma you have consumed as a fruit in one life, you have already multiplied karma by several fold. Multifold karma you have already performed. Meaning more you consume, beyond that multifold more you produce karma.
correct.
And chitta is carrying all of these. So out of that abundance of the karma, when let's say this life ends, out of that abundance of the karma, only one part of it, only one part of it is taken out, meaning you get rid of those karma.
Mm,
But how do you get rid of? You get rid of in the form of your next life, which is called prarabdh. Prarabdh, prarabdh karma is nothing but a portion of the sanchit karma, the stored karma,
Correct.
only a portion of it. And that portion of karma is now your destiny. It's prarabdh. Prarabdh means it is something, the fruits of something is already destined for you. It is pre-obtained. If you literally translate prarabdh, meaning something which is uplabdh beforehand. You don't have to put an effort. It is pre-available for you. It is already waiting to happen at that moment. Something like this. So prarabdh is what decides which parent, which family, how many years. These are the subject of the prarabdh. This is not the subject of your current action. Prarabdh is not your making. Prarabdh is making of God. God only decides that out of the accumulation of the karma, now which portion of the karma he should give the fruits of. And and so the prarabdh pahle bana, piche bana sharir. Prarabdh is formed first by Almighty, and then he uses Akshar Brahm to form the gross body. So prarabdh is not your making. Your making is only the fundamental deeds, the fundamental karma. But prarabdh is all work of the Almighty. It's not yours.
So yes, and there is no choice in
No,
choosing parents or anything like that.
no.
Oh, okay, yeah,
As I'm saying, your choice is only in doing the karma in that
karma.
fashion. Yes.
Correct.
So only when you perform only yoga, let's say you perform only yogic karma, right? You are performing all the karma which means that you are entitled to grow as a yogi. Then of course the god will have only that choice, because your karma is all in favor of making you yogi. So your next life also will be a yogic life.
So Vijay Kumar ji, this is Venkat here,
Yeah.
Narayana.
Yes,
So,
Narayana.
yeah, when we like before the human birth, so we don't know what are the different that we took, right? At least most of us do not know.
Mhm.
So what if it is a non-human birth? What do we call the soul that we discussed earlier, right? So,
Yeah, right. Mhm.
what do we call, and what is the chance of they coming back to this one? Or what do they have to do? Like, how do they transform?
Right. So no, this is very good questions. Ideally, all these we are going to discuss again in the bondages, when we talk about bondage of karma, the life and death, and how to get rid of the cycle of life and death. All that is a chapter in the bondages. But just to give you a brief highlight here, that all these bodies, whether of human body or of any other bodies that you see, they are all called yonis, right? This is called manav yoni. Then you have pashu yoni, you have keet yoni, you have, it's all different insects. That, in symbolically it is said that there are 84 lakh yonis, meaning 84 lakhs of the bodies, types of the bodies, right? So that includes the life of an insect, a bird, the animals, everything that you see as a prani, as a jeev, as a living beings. These are all called the gross body. So it's not a subtle body. They are all called gross body. But the subtle body, the difference is only in the gross body, by the way. The difference is only in the gross body. Whether the soul comes out of a human being or soul comes out of an insect, the subtle body the subtle body is the same. It is the same subtle body with 19 elements. These 19 elements will continue to go with the soul, whether it has come out of an insect or out of a human body. The subtle body will still be a subtle body. And then based on what is the actions which are there in your chitta, the next set of karma will decide the prarabdha. And of course, it is done by the Almighty. So we don't decide what will be our next body. And out of these all incarnations, it is only the human incarnation, only the human life, which is called the karma yoni. Only the human life is called the karma yoni, and all other lives are called bhog yoni. This is a big thing to understand. We must understand the importance of the human life. That is why the moment you understand this, that the only opportunity for me to change the direction of life is in the human life, in the human body. The moment you lose the last breath of the human body, by then you're tied up to prarabdha and prarabdha alone. You cannot change the course of your life. Only prarabdha will decide from which body you will go to which body. And then your cycle of life and death into different other species begin. Let's say you are an insect. In fact, I was in one of satsang, I was saying that you know it's very rare to see ant right in USA. So next time when you find an ant crawling on the table, just look at it carefully. It tells you, it gives you satsang actually. You get a satsang from the ant. You look the ant carefully. See how it is moving, where it is going. It tells you that I am your past. This is what you were before. And then it tells very boldly something which shocks me. It tells, just look at your life. Am I your present also? Meaning, even disguised in the human body, are you still doing what I am doing? What is ant doing? Ant has no business. It just looks for the food, goes for the subject, grabs it, eats it, feeds the children, and sleeps and does all that. That's it. It has no ambitions of the life. It has no direction of the life, just basic survival. Or in another word, it is just after the worldly subject, nothing more than that. So the ant tells me that look at your life. I was your past, but am I your present? Am I your present? If I am your present, then it is for sure I'll be your future. If you are living like an insect in the human body, then for sure you'll become an insect next life. And after that, you will have no choice. Once you are an insect, you will have no choice because that's bhog yoni. There is no change of karma in those bhog yonis. The karma is already done. And now, whatever you have carried forward in that body of the insect, from that accumulated karma only, the prarabdha will get forms, a subset and a subset and a subset from one body to the other body to the other body. And then whatever subset will remain, out of that, if whatever remained, whatever karma remains, if that is good enough for you to come in the human life, then that is a great fortune. If the God decides that, okay, now this fellow has this much karma left, and out of this set of karma is good enough for the soul to go back to the human body. If something like that happens, that is the greatest fortune, because now you can again change the course of your life. You can change the direction. If you don't want to go to the insect, even though you have all the karmas, all the previous karmas, which are enough for you to go back to the insect, yet in the human body, you can change the direction of the course of your life. How? if you live your human life like a human being, then whatever karma you have, which could have otherwise pushed you back into the life of an insect, they will remain subsided down. They will be suppressed because your human karma is a karma yoni. And based on how you conduct the human life, you can decide your future. That will decide your future. If you live a human life like a human being, then you'll continue to come as a human being. But the moment you start misusing the power of a human being in doing misconduct in this life, that is when you'll be again deprived of the human powers and will be thrown back into those insects. Yeah, thank you. So, any other questions?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, one question. So they're
Yes,
talking about
Sukhdev.
the soul,
Yeah,
right?
Jai Sukhdev, Jyoti ji. I think two persons are talking. I'm sorry. So, can you please, yeah, state your name, please? There's a gentleman who's talking.
No,
Which
Monica
gentleman here?
here.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Monica.
Yeah, Monica. Yes, go ahead.
Oh,
We are not hearing you, Monica.
hello.
Yes. Think there could be some fluctuations, internet
Hello.
fluctuations. Yes, I hear you, but it's very dim. Just speak your questions, please.
AJ.
Yeah.
Yeah, Monica here.
Yeah.
So I'm asking you that what happens if, in lifetime somebody has gone through like some suffering caused by a situation, and that person, whenever that situation comes, that person loses, his her patience, or the finest human qualities. So that time, the person goes back into that not in a, goes back to that same cycle of I don't know how to say, but like you said, if when we lose our human qualities, then
Right.
we go back into the same thing. So how a person can face that situation? Whenever that situation comes, the person gets
Mhm.
angry, the person
Right.
gets remorse, all those
Mhm.
things are मतलब वो जकड़ लेती है आदमी को. So
Hmm.
how can the person come out of it that time?
Yeah. So again, these are all questions around karma, and as we said that in the next class, which is going to happen next week, Saturday, we are going to talk in detail about the karma, the Jad Chetan Granthi, the ignorance, because these three bondages is what is to be understood by us. The moment you understand what is the bondage of ignorance, the moment you understand what is the bondage of ignorance, all these questions will be answered just there. Because in the root of everything is the bondage of ignorance, nothing else. There is absolutely no bondage of karma. There is no bondage of Jad Chetan. Actually, there is only one bondage, the bondage of ignorance. It's just that the grosser form of that bondage is the Jad Chetan Granthi. It's just that the further grosser form of the bondage is the Karma Granthi. So all the three Granthis, all the three bondages, the bondage of ignorance, bondage of Jad Chetan, bondage of Karma, they are just related to each other. And in the foundation, in the root is the foundation, and the root is the bondage of ignorance. So the day this ignorance is gone, that for what are you getting angry? You are a soul. You don't belong to this world. You have nothing to take from here. You have nothing to lose here. The moment this very ignorance about the self, about who you are, what is the prime purpose of this human life, if that is very clear to you, you would of course conduct your life accordingly. So the root is the bondage of ignorance. And that is why when we start leading the life in seva, in satsang, in sadhana, then we start leading the life in the influence of the wisdom. We always remain in the wisdom. And the moment any situations comes to us, we react to it on the basis of the wisdom, not on the basis of the 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 craze of the mind. It is not that the mind will pull you and get you do the actions which you will regret later. No, it doesn't happen with one who lives the life in wisdom. So the root reason for all the bondage, all the misdoing is nothing but the bondage of ignorance. We are tied up to ignorance. We are leading the life in the darkness of the ignorance. That is the problem. So as I said, we'll go in further details in next week. In fact, we are going to talk several scenarios which will cover all the pending questions that you guys had from previous session as well. So tri-bondages are very important, and that is where it is a dedicated session on that. What is the ignorance? What is Jad Chetan Granthi? What is Granthi of karma? Have to be understood very clearly.
Also, just one small
Vijay
question,
ji.
Vijay ji.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. What was the question?
जब आपने एक्सप्लेन किया था कि सोल जब टॉप पे थी, टॉप क्वाड्रेंट में, और उसको ये थॉट आया कि मैं ही ब्रह्म हूँ,
Mhm.
फ्रॉम दैट पॉइंट द सोल स्टार्टेड डिसेंडिंग एंड डिसेंडिंग. सो
Right.
वो अगर वो थॉट नहीं होता सोल के पास
Mhm.
कि मैं ब्रह्म हूँ, देन
Mhm.
द सोल, व्हाट वुड हैव हैपेंड टू द सोल देन?
Right. So, see, the thing is like this. The moment you get this thought, aham brahmasmi, मैं ही ब्रह्म हूँ, that means you lose the impression of the Almighty. The moment you lose the impression of the Almighty, that means now your consciousness has become that much degraded. And once it is degraded, you're not going to enhance it because Sadguru is not there to enhance your consciousness back to there. Sadhguru's job is like a parent, like a father who takes the daughter to the in-laws house. The duty of a father is to take care of the child, grow it up to the adulthood, and then do the bidai. So Sadhguru is our father and we are the daughters of Sadhguru, and Sadhguru's job is to do the bidai of his daughter to the husband. Our husband is Paramatma. So it's like that. So once you reach to Paramatma, then Sadhgurudev says from now on he is your Aradhya. So apply all your consciousness. Now I am not your Aradhya. I just taught you how to offer devotion to me, and now you have to apply the same devotion to Almighty. So he will leave you there in the three quadrant, and from then on, based on what is your degree of devotion, you will continue over there. So if this bhav doesn't happen, when will this bhav not come to you? When you are in devotion, when you know that, and when you are in devotion, your consciousness will remain attached to the Almighty. Even though one portion of your consciousness will come to the self, but you will not see yourself as the self. You will still recognize the quality of bliss which you find within you as the property of Almighty only. As long as the iron piece is in the impression that the heat that I am getting is of fire, even though it looks at the self, if it says the heat that I am getting is of fire, then it will go back to the fire because its consciousness has not degraded. It is still capable to experience Almighty. So this will not make the soul fall because the degree of consciousness is maintained by attributing this Anand quality to the Almighty and Almighty only. But the moment this bhav comes that Aham Brahmasmi, oh, this is mine, this is what I am. The moment this feeling comes, that is what is the cause of the fall. And that is why the devotion is the ultimate thing. More you become the great devotee of Sadgurudev, the better you are. Because that's what you have come to learn here on this mortal land. Our job is to learn to become a devotee. That is what our job is.
Which is the present state. Hello.
Yes, Shirenji, yes.
So, you said that only humans can do karmas. No other yoni can do karmas. And it is kind of clear except for one yoni, which is Deva yoni, because
Mhm.
uh, Deva yoni, they the consciousness is probably much higher. Their buddhi is developed. So
Mhm.
why that humans can do karmas but not
Okay.
in the Deva?
So so let's understand this in the right context. We are talking about the karma which will decide the future of the soul, right? The karma, not the karma which will bring change in the world, in the creation. There are karma which is performed by Jivan Mukti Yogi also, right? Like Sadguru himself. The present Sadguru is in union with Almighty. He is doing so much of thing in this world, but none of his action is for him. It is not going to tie up Sadguru for anything that he does because he does not do anything like that. All he does it for the world. So karma, what we are talking about here is the karma which will bring change in your course of life. And that's why no other yonis are designated that way, where whatever see, even the dogs, even the pet animals, they do so many things, right? They help you from dangers. If let's say you have a pet and somebody is coming to your door, the dogs will start barking because that is the functions which have been engraved into the dog, and the dog is doing that because that is what the body is made like. So it is not doing anything different. It is doing as part of its prarabdha only. The prarabdha of that dog is to bark. So wherever it will get an occasion, it will bark, right? So it is not doing any actions, not doing any new actions. It is just abiding by the prarabdha which was given to it. Similarly, the Dev Yoni, as you spoke about, Dev Yoni is a yoni in which you are obtaining the fruits of all the pious act that you did. When you do so much of punya, that is when you are given the swarg. The swarg is of two types. One swarg is on this mortal land itself. When your this life, when your this life itself is filled with happiness, everything is heavenly, then this is what the real heaven is. And then there is Dev Yoni as well. So Dev Yoni is again a yoni where you get the fruits of your actions. You are not creating any new karma which will change the course of your life just because you acted in a Dev Yoni in a certain fashion. No, it doesn't happen that way. That's not a karma yoni.
Okay. Thank you.
whatever we have been creating the impression about Dev Yoni and Devas by looking at the TV episodes, please don't consider that as real. They're all there could be mix of imaginations there, right? So Dev Yonis do not act the way you see in the story. The Devas getting sad, get fighting, and all that. So that's not what Dev Yoni is. These are all stories to teach human the good lessons, something to learn, so that the human conduct is improved. Human being knows how to live the life better. So those are the stories written by saints just to help human being understand how a human being should live. And those are the stories written when the species lived in the human form only. For example, there'll be stories about Ramayana, which will be spoken, in even after 1 lakh of years later. Right now, we still feel close, right? We feel that it was just 10,000 years ago, and we still have traces of the setu that was built to Sri Lanka, right? So we still have all those things. So we're still close. But after 1 lakh of years, when people will talk about the stories of Rama, and they will think that, oh, this was in the heaven, there was Lord Rama, and he did so and so. This is how he took care of his wife, and this is how he obeyed the commandment of his father. All that people will speak, and they think this happened in heaven. No, this happened on the earth when he was the human being. It's just that his actions as a human was so divine that he became godly for the human being. People started looking him as a god because he was godly. He was godly, no doubt about it. That's why he did such a pious thing. He taught human being lessons how to live like a pure human being. That's why he's God. That's why we pray him, because his actions are praiseworthy. So yes, whatever stories you listen, they are all the stories of a human being. They are not the stories of Dev Yoni.
Vijayji, Naveenji has some question. He has raised a hand. So,
Okay.
Naveenji, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
विजय जी आई जय सतगुरुदेव।
जय सुखदेव। हाँ।
विजय जी मेरे को एक छोटा सा सवाल था। I saw this दोहा of which was on the screen from survey। तो
Right.
पंच प्राण जो हैं,
हम्म,
जो मुझे इसके बारे में आप थोड़ा सा समझाएं। तो हिंदी थोड़ी सी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है मेरे लिए। जो ये प्राण, अपान, समान, व्यान और उदान।
Right. Correct. Also, you want to know about those prana?
हाँ जी सर।
Sure, sure. So we will cover that in other sessions. We are running out of time right now.
Sure.
So we will take these questions. We'll take it up in the future sessions. Thank you all for attending this. We'll keep exploring further. Our Gurudev says that what is the use of these Tattva Gyan? These are called Vahya Tattva Gyan. There are two aspect of spirituality. One is called Vahya Tattva Gyan, meaning understanding the theory of spirituality first, and then there is Abhyantar Bhed Sadhan. Then is the inner experience of these elements. The reason we need to understand these theories is because this is what will save you from the wrong directions, because you at least will know in theory that no, whatever this guy, nobody can come and just say that, hey, I am there, I will just take you to Almighty. If you have the theories with you, you can counter questions. You can at least figure out whether he is a genuine saint or he's just like that. So theories is what makes you eligible for the progress in spirituality. Theory is what develops the love for the entity that you know. The day I start talking about Sadguru, then you will understand how the theory changes your impression about Sadguru. That's why it is said that ज्ञान ही प्रेम का आधार है. If you want to have love for anything, you need to have knowledge of that. Only when you get knowledge about it, then you you develop feeling for it, attraction for it. So knowledge is in the foundation of prem. So Vahya Tattva Gyan, once you go through Vahya Tattva Gyan, when you understand all these elements in theory, then you get attracted to realizing these elements. Then you feel more intense in doing your meditation. No matter what, I would meditate now. No matter what I will attend satsang now. No matter what, I will devote my time, my money, my mind, my body into seva. Only when you understand this in theory. That's why this Vahya Tattva Gyan, the sessions that we are attending is very important. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here. We'll conclude with Shanti part. I request Rekha ji to conclude.
शांति पाठ। हे प्रभु शांति स्वरूप हो, शांति शांतिमय शांति, शांति शांति जन शांति हो, पूर्ण शांतिमय शांति। हे प्रभु शांति प्रदान कर, दूर हो सर्व अशांति। देव सदा फल शांति में, शांति शांति सुख शांति। बोलिए सद्गुरुदेव भगवान की जय।
Jai. Jai Sadgurudev, everybody. See you next week, 3 o'clock, Saturday.